comes the word hood, I think of a person, a place, and perhaps even a thing. I'm Sir Creepsta, and welcome to Middleburg County Ghost Stories from the Hood. So, sit back, relax, grab up all your snacks, and be terrified by yet another ghost story from the Hood. The exact year is unknown, but according to my source, it was somewhere around the mid-70s. What I do know is that when the story was brought to my attention, I was totally blown away by it and its outcome. Now let's get to the story. Having a passion for animals isn't something out of the ordinary, especially when it comes to dogs. After all, they aren't called man's best friend for nothing. Piss 7, as he was called by the locals in the community, was no exception. He admired and loved them so much so that by the time it was all said and done, he was rumored to have owned around 10 or 11 of them. So many that it was really hard for anyone to keep an actual count. Piss cared so much for his canine friends that he allowed each and every one of them to share his home, seeing that he was a loner and his pets were all the family that he had and needed. But before I go any further, please do me a favor and smash that like button like it's an unwanted roach. And also, click on that bell icon so that you can stay in the loop and be notified each and every time I drop a brand new video. The person who brought the story to me was unaware of Piss's true age. All they knew was that he was an elderly man, possibly a widower. Piss lived in a large house on Reservoir Avenue in Central City, Kentucky, which at the time was located right next to the car wash. Being a local man, it was common to see him roaming around the downtown area at various times of the day. So, when a friend of his noticed that he hadn't seen him for several days, it bothered him, and so he took it upon himself to pay Piss a visit, just to check up on his old buddy to make sure that he was okay. After arriving at his friend's home, he began to knock on his friend's door, as well as all the windows for several minutes, only to hear the barking sounds coming from Piss's many dogs. This caused his friend to instantly get a terrible feeling in his gut, telling him that something was out of place, and his suspicions couldn't have been more accurate. Unable to reach Piss, his friend knew that he had no other choice but to get the local police involved. And after going to the nearest payphone, making a 911 call, police would show up at Piss's home several minutes later. Upon arriving at the home, Piss 7, and after several unsuccessful attempts to get Piss to come through the door, the police officers knew they had no other choice but to break into the home of Piss 7. And what they discovered once inside would give them nightmares for the rest of their lives. Inside the home, the police officers were quickly overtaken by the foul smell of death and animal feces. And it wouldn't take long for them to see where the foul smell was coming from. It was none other than good old Piss himself, or what remained of him, lying on the living room floor. He had apparently been devoured by his very own pets, so much so that he was hardly recognizable. The news of the gruesome sight would quickly spread throughout the community, with no one having any answer as to how this could happen to a man who both loved and was loved by all of his pets. But one could only speculate that because of Piss's age, he had probably died of natural causes, or was something far more sinister. But with having no one there to see after his many dogs, rather than starve to death, they took it upon themselves to feast off their beloved master, bringing a sad and gruesome end to Mr. Pitt's Sabbath. But the story doesn't end there. It was only the start of something far more sinister to come from within the home of Mr. Pitt's Sabbath. Once the house was cleaned and restored back to livable conditions by the new owners of its estate, it would be rented out several months later following the horrifying death of Pitt's Sabbath to a couple who lived in town, and it did not go well for them. According to my source, he was told by the occupants that immediately after moving in, strange, bizarre things started to take place within the home, mainly in the basement. Things such as flickering on and off of lights, along with the loud banging sounds. It was always seen to happen early in the morning around 3 a.m. But as soon as the occupants would go down into the basement, the flickering lights and banging sounds would suddenly stop. These paranormal activities would go on for about 2 months, prompting the occupants to flee the residence, never return. According to the source, this became an ongoing pattern for anyone who tried to live in the house, making it one of the most well-known haunted houses in the Central City area. After a while, seeing that no one was willing to live in the house any longer than a couple of months at a time because of the hauntings, the house was left abandoned and then finally demolished. As far as old Pierce is concerned, no one ever knew what caused his dog to make a meal of their beloved owner, nor is it known whatever became of his canine friends, or why after the death of Pierce, the house became so haunted. Perhaps it was haunted all along. That's something I guess we will never know. All I know for sure is that the story of Pierce Sabbath and his haunted house is one of the most bizarre stories I'd ever heard. That's all for now, my Sir Creepsta friends. Stay tuned for more stories to come. And like always, I'm Sir Creepsta. Until next time, stay terrified. Ha 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 ha.